What's going on, everybody? Chase with Hockey here again with Dan Rich, Product Development Manager for Sherwood Hockey. We're here in Calgary with your full line of True Touch sticks. And this is growing this year, which is very exciting because True Touch has been around for quite some time. Before we start talking about the exciting T120, just walk me through what True Touch means and maybe for what style of player True Touch is built for.
So the True Touch family has been a staple of the Sherwood brand for a long, long time. I mean, I think everyone who knows our brand is familiar with the T90. And the T90 has been a staple for many, many years. A true mid-kick stick with a more square shaft dimension. And I think it's something that suits almost any level of player if they're looking for a nice balance between performance and durability, and at a very, very affordable price point. So we're not talking about a stick that is in the 360 gram range in ultralights. This is a stick that is a little bit more robust, but again, it's a stick that's very playable for a player who's coming, those players we're making transition from wood sticks to composite sticks. This is when the T90 really started being introduced into the Sherwood family. And we've maintained that all along. We've certainly refined it over the years, but again, it's a true staple and a nice balance between performance and durability.
It's basically the 50-30 of composite sticks.
You know what, it's a great comparison really, because it has that level of following as well.
Right, and so we've got that mid-kick point in the entire line, a little more traditional, a little more classic, great for those big power shooters looking for as much shot power as possible, and got the classic shaft dimensions, a little more boxy, a little more square too.
Certainly a little bit more square, a little bit sharper corners to it than some of our others in our R shaft or in our ETS shaft, which has much more rounded corners and more convex in the sidewalls. So yes, a very, very square dimension, if you will, something that is much more traditional, and that stays consistent as you go through the line.
Now let's talk about the T120, because off camera you mentioned you wanted to take the T90 to a whole new level here, and I feel like that's just the perfect way to describe it too. So what was the purpose of the T120? Well,
we knew how successful we have been with the T90, but it was actually almost had a ceiling as to the player that accepted it. We wanted to see if we could get an elite level player to come along with this family as well and get a true mid-kick stick. So by doing that, we got under the hood of the T90. We looked at what we were using from a layup perspective. We looked at the taper area, and we looked at our overall material selection, and we were able to drop the weight. We were able to actually enhance the taper and basically build a true pro stock stick, if you will, to operate at a price point that is still very, very reasonable, but has all the performance you would expect out of a pro level stick.
And you mentioned this comes in right around 410 to 420 grams,
in that range, yeah.
And it looks like you're using a lot of that modern technology that we see in the Code line. We see it in the Legend line as well with those materials too. So even just comparing the T120 to the T90, well, what are the actual material differences we find between the two?
Well, first and foremost, you're going to Blackline 25 carbon fiber. So, we use a couple of different weaves in the T90. In Blackline 25 through the blade and throughout the rest of the stick, you're getting a stick that actually has the best combination of weight and strength balance in our carbon fiber selection. Then we've actually enhanced the hosel area to create the engine of the stick. That power taper hosel has a slightly different dimension to it, and the overall blade profile slightly different dimension than what we saw in the T90, T90 G3. And then our balance point, Featherlight X. So if you work the hierarchies of our balance points in the Legend Pro and in the Encrypt Pro, in our other families of sticks, you're dealing with Featherlight XT, which is our optimum balance point between shaft and blade combination. Featherlight X, again, a little bit heavier through the blade, changing the balance point. And this is actually Featherlight X, whereas as you move into the 90, you're in Featherlights, and in the 60, which is just a standard entry-level stick.
And so, as we just talked about, the T120 has a lot more modern refinements. The T90 G3 is a classic built stick, tried and true. Everyone knows how that performs, and obviously it's performed great with its popularity. But one thing that the T90 G3 doesn't have that the new T120 and then T60 have are the name bars too. So wanted to make sure we called that out too.
This is true. By changing to that silver name bar in all of our lines now, it allows you to actually truly personalize that stick for the consumer.
And let's finish this off with the T60X before we talk a little bit about ABS, because that is important for those outdoor players. I know that this is just a great value stick for that price. What are a couple of things you'd like to say about it?
So it is truly an entry-level product. We needed to create something that was ice ready, as opposed to ABS. with that preference on ball hockey or inline, if you will. So we wanted to have a price fighter here that we could have a Sherwood product on the floor in the retail stores that would be a great intro to hockey. So that's what we were able to do here. The other thing that's important to note about the T series is that this is a family that will actually live a little bit longer in store or online than our Code and our Legend families, our Code and our Wrecker families, excuse me, where they will refresh or turn into a new model every second year. So we have a Code year this year, we actually will have a Wrecker year next year, and with the T series, that will have a much longer life cycle. So T90, we know, has been a staple for so long, and it doesn't change very often. The T120 Pro and the T60X will also live a longer life cycle. So you'll know that you'll be able to find these at retail and online for a much longer period of time.
And then last but not least, just can you briefly touch on the 2 ABS options and why that's so important for that outdoor inline player?
Well, look, from a blade perspective, from a wear perspective, whether you're on a gym floor or a different material on floor, that ABS has a much better wear surface on the sole of the blade, if you will, and it adds to the overall durability of the product. So we need to make sure that hockey just doesn't come in one form on a beautiful rink like this, right? It's played whether it's outdoor, whether it's inline, no matter where. So we want to make sure that we're offering products with our brand on it that can be used at various surfaces.
And I want to point out too, just because I am a big fan of the composite ABSs, because I do play outdoors occasionally myself too, is that it gives you that indoor performance outdoors, so you don't want to ruin, a T120 Pro out there, but it allows you to still have that performance. But as always, Dan, thank you so much for having us out once again.
Thank you.
And for you at home that want to check out the entire TrueTouch line, make sure you head over to icewarehouse.com.